So Christina, thank you very much for all your hard work tonight. I'd also like to take a quick moment to acknowledge Michelle. Michelle, thank you for all of your work. Very, very special evening. And of course, Nina. Thank you as well, Nina. Thank you so very, very much. Most of you know me. For those of you that don't, my name is Mal Montoya. I'm the president and CEO of the Milwaukee Artist Resource Network. Welcome to our hub. Every event that we do here, it's a great honor for me to read a land acknowledgement on behalf of the entire staff here. The Marn Art and Culture Hub, built for artists, by artists, and those who appreciate their work, is located here in the historic Third Ward, the traditional Potawatomi, Ho-Chunk, Menominee homeland, where people of Wisconsin's sovereign Anishinaabe, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Oneida, Mohican nations remain present to this day. Again, thank you very much for that, by the way. Thank you to the staff. Some of them aren't here tonight, but they were working here all day long. Christina, as you can see here, Nicole, who isn't here, Riley, who's not here, Whitney, who is here, Sam, who's not here, and of course, Michelle. And Ashley. Thank you very much, Ashley. I'd also like to take a quick moment to let everybody know that our new partners that are working behind the cafe, Ryan and Alex of Interval, so please give them a hand too. Please visit them as often as you can this evening as well. I think that that's pretty much it for now. And what I wanted to do is just make sure that everybody, that you understood that we were so excited to have you all here and welcome one and all. And I'm going to give this this microphone over to.
All right, thank you. So welcome everybody. This is, I think, the first in-person event I've done like this, so it's nice to be with you all in person. I've done more Zoom events than I like to even think about, so it is really nice just to be together in each other's energy. And we're going to be talking about the MARNsalons program, and we have 4 esteemed panelists here who are going to be talking about it. And as a means of just getting to know you a little bit, to introduce yourselves, would you mind just introducing yourself with your name, and then I'm going to give you guys a prompt. I want you all to honor a teacher that you've had sometime in your life, extra credit if it's an art teacher. So someone who's had an influence on who you are today. And I'm just going to start really briefly. I'll give you an example. My mother, Janet Carr, is an art therapist, and I am the youngest. So as she was getting back into her career, I was her guinea pig for all of her art projects in her studio. So I explored the inner reaches of outer space with her and made masks and went into the Aboriginal dream time and all that kind of stuff. And regularly today, when I'm being a little bit too weird for the circumstances, I will tell people I'm the son of an art therapist, but you probably already knew that. So I just wanted to honor and thank my mother, Janet Lucar. All right. Yeah. How about a round of applause for Janet Lucar?
Yeah.
Excellent. Who would like to go first?
I could go first. Actually, you took mine, my mom and my dad, actually. I consider myself not just an artist, but a maker, and my dad was a carpenter, and I was always out there helping him. So and my mom was actually an elementary teacher too, but she sewed and she decorated cakes and stuff. So they exposed me to all different kinds of materials, I think, which helped me today. So.
And you are Lennis Matthews, right?
Yes, I'm Lennis Matthews, and my mother is Martha Heatherly. So.
All right. How about a round of applause for Martha?
I guess I can go because I'm kind of next in order. Good evening. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Michelle, Nina, everyone, Adam. I'm happy to be here. My name is Natapon. Teachers?
Yes.
This one's an intense one, but that's how I roll. I wouldn't say honor, but I would say he definitely made me who I am. So this person is my 5th grade teacher. His name is Mr. Warren Proud, and I just barely arrived to the U.S. I was probably 3 years here in the States. Kind of spoke broken English at the time, but I definitely understood what he said. Um, I had asked him, why do I have to memorize the Star Spangled Banner? And he said, well, if you're not happy, go back home to your country. So, long story short, this person I will honor is my principal, Mrs. Redding. During recess time, I said, oh, fuck, I don't know what to do. You know, I raised my hand, asked that question. It was like I'm buried underwater and no one can hear me. So I sat back down, I said, okay, I'm gonna go to Mrs. Redding's office. Mrs. Redding, Mr. Proud says something bad. What? He told me go back home country. I said, and she said, I want to meet your mother the next day. And I did. And I just went home and told my mom what had happened. My dad used every adjective imaginable in Thai to describe Mr. Proud. So the next day, I sat right here, Mrs. Redding there, my mom there, Mr. Proud there. And Mrs. Redding said, what happened? I looked him in the eyes. I said, you tell me go home country. And Mrs. Redding said, is that true, to Mr. Proud? And he said, yes. And she said, apologize to the child and his mother. So, both of these people are very important in my life because they make me who I am as a person, as a human being, and as an artist and the work that I do.
Round of applause for the teacher and the anti-teacher.
Yes. Sorry to make it so intense, but I gotta be true to myself.
Yeah.
And I thought long and hard when you asked that question. It's like, who is it? Well, there are two people, Mrs. Redding and Mr. Proud.
I'm Reed Sankin. I think I've been fortunate to have a lot of really good teachers, but I would have to cite probably my very first real art teacher in college, John Tuchillo, who always encouraged me to do the things that I wanted to do, and even like my website, my kind of online acronym is Stupid Better, and that arose from a saying he would say all the time in like these painting classes, which is like, the stupider the idea, the better it is. And like that he always emphasized and really tried to push his students to like be free and be original and to be stupid. Yeah, so I took that and ran with it.
Say his name one more time.
John Tuchillo.
All right, let's honor John.
I can breathe now. My name is Reynaldo Hernandez from Milwaukee, and I have two teachers. My main teacher was my mother because she taught me how to navigate the world, and when I was real little she told me I had a God-given talent and I shouldn't waste it. So I'm still trying to please her. But my art teacher was my high school art teacher. His name was Mr. Cote. Is this mic working? Oh, it's good. Okay, Mr. Cote in high school. I went to Boys Tech, Technical and Trade High School, because, like I said, when I was little, I knew I was drawing, and so I figured out fine artists, it's hard to make a living, especially in Milwaukee. So I was leaning towards commercial art, which I learned in high school. There you can learn all different trades, carpentry, aeronautics, printing. I took commercial art. Mr. Cote was an older gentleman, but he worked in the field in Milwaukee in the ad agencies. So I respected him because what he said, I knew it was the truth because he worked in it. And he always told the students that we shouldn't try to be as good as him. He said our goal is to be better than he is. So that's Mr. Cote. I think if he was alive now, he'd probably be like 120 years old.
Well, let's say his name one more time.
Mr. Cote, C-O-T-E.
Mr. Cote.
Yes.
Let's have a round of applause for him. And also your mother.
Oh, yes, Catherine.
Yes.
All right, so let's get into the Marn Salon program, actually set of programs. It's kind of a lot of different things. It's not just one thing. And actually just to address that fact, let's just go through quickly. So give a short answer of how you were connected to the Marn Salon in this last round. So we have someone who's traveled here and participated as a featured artist. We have people that participate in different ways. So just share briefly how you were involved in Marn Salon in this last round. And Reynaldo, why don't you start?
Okay, I think I was involved with Salon 1, I think in January, beginning. And so I was a critic, whatever you want to call me. And I worked with, her name was, I think, Sonia Mila or Mia. Soraya, there she go. She was a French filmmaker. And that was really great for me because she was like a role model for me. Plus she was an Afro, not Latina, but an Afro-French filmmaker. And she made a film on the African area in France. And I got to learn, I was in France before, but here I learned the inside story of people of color in a certain area and how they stuck together and helped each other. And I learned about the country, how the country has a perception that we're all equal and nobody is, which is good. But then through her film, she showed there still was internal things that needed to be worked on. So what happens in France is mirrored here in Milwaukee and other parts of the United States, but in a different perception. So I really got an education through her. So from her, I'm going to pursue filmmaking a little more, using the resources that we have here in Milwaukee.
I was in the third part of the program, and I did a virtual visit to Notapal, and then I have the installation of like 3 sculptures over there.
My involvement, I was involved in Salon 3. I was a virtual visiting artist, so I visited 3 artists' studio, which was kind of weird online, but it was kind of cool, you know, to connect in a different way. It was the very first time I did it, so that's my capacity, my involvement with Marn.
Okay. And I was an artist, and I had the studio visit virtually with Reynaldo was one of my visitors. Yeah.
Well, now that some time has passed since all of those visits took place, since all of your Marn salons happened, would you mind just unpacking a little bit more of what that experience was like? What some of the more meaningful and memorable experiences were in that? And then especially what you took away from it. So something that maybe, so Reynaldo, yours was in January. Well, what has continued lingering in your mind? And, as a visiting artist, what is, you were here to kind of critique people, but I imagine some of those conversations continue to resonate with you. So share a little bit, whoever wants to go first, kind of some of the major takeaways you had from your Marn Salon experience.
Well, I would say that the experience here reconnected me with Marn, because way in the beginning of Marn, it was like the Wild West. We were meeting in a different location, and it was good, but it was feeling, from then till now, it's like leaps and bounds. And just today, this is my first time in this beautiful gallery, so I can really see the progress. And then working with Nina, I could see how it was really great seeing what's, you can't really see the artist's work unless you go to their gallery or their home or their studio. And here, even if it's online, virtually, I got to see different techniques. I got reinforced that people older like ourselves, we're in good hands, because the arts are still being cultivated in the city, and we have great artists here.
Can you talk a little bit more about your conversations with Soraya and that experience? Because I think, like, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that you're a legendary artist in Milwaukee and people know you really well. So getting a chance to connect to someone who's outside, I'm sure you do this in other capacities as well, but getting to talk to someone who is very far away and how that kind of conversation might have lingered with you.
Well, yeah, it's still lingering, and she was like, I would say, a little ahead of herself, because now I had a gallery at the United UCC gallery. From that gallery, the buzzword for Latinos was Afro-Latinos, which is myself. And then Latinx because of gender. If you're a Latino, you're a male. If you're Latina, you're female. So if you're Latinx, it encompasses the whole thing. But so that was included as an Afro-Latino. And the person that interviewed me, he wired it to LA because that was the only buzzword that connected me with LA. So that was good. But so Soraya, right? She like connected with the Afro-Latino community in France, but it wasn't Latino. But here we translate it. So we're one big community, even if we're not artists. Artists are one big community, just like musicians. You know, they can do different genres, and doesn't matter what color they are, they play the music, and they can learn from each other. Well, it's the same with art, but it's also worldwide, so we're diversified. That's what I like about Milwaukee is the university systems, and in fact, I work doing murals throughout, like UW, Oshkosh, Stout. I got to travel around the whole the whole state, and connect with youth there. But there is a divide even in Milwaukee. You know, we have south side, north side. We have physical barriers that divide it. Even we have freeways that split certain neighborhoods. And so my goal was, even in Milwaukee, I worked at the Inner City Arts Council on 7th and North Avenue. And I also, because I have birthright to be both African American and Latin American. I worked with UCC in both places, and I wanted to like cross culture. You know, and so we're still working on it. But the artists themselves do it. But then we need like larger organizations to also connect it all. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who else wants to share some of the kind of takeaways and memorable experiences you had from the MARNsalon experience?
I can go next. There are a few words that resonate with me, and I still think about them since our shared experience and our gathering. One of which is vulnerability. We were able to be vulnerable together, to have and establish that intimate conversations together with trust. And I still think a lot about that, not only of who I interact with, but especially amongst the people that I've touched virtually. The second word that I think about is bringing your authentic self or authenticity, bringing one's authentic voice and self to the work and to your presence. And last but not least, because I'm not from here, I've always moved within a nomadic framework. It's through these serendipitous moments that have brought me here to Milwaukee, and I don't know why, but I'm here. And it's a mystery for me to try to connect seemingly disconnected points as to why is it that I'm here. And it's exciting to embark on these unknowns. So since the gathering or the virtual conversation, I've been thinking a lot about why, and I'm not one who do a lot of reading or research before I come to a certain place. I want to be present in the space and see how the place and the city unfolds itself to me. So, and this may be the first of many visits back. I can say one thing. This is the second day that I've been here. It is really the waterways that makes this city, and I feel that these waterways are containers of history that cuts through. And many cities have disparities and divides, but I got a sense that the waterway it's the connecting bloodline and veins to the city. Just my brief these past 2 days of walking around, and that's my initial impression of the city. So to answer your question, Adam, I've been thinking a lot as to why is it that I'm here.
Can I ask you a quick follow-up on that? I feel like vulnerability and authenticity and sort of summoning those in yourself and then navigating the dynamic of trying to draw that out of other people can be challenging. I think it's especially hard on Zoom. Can you talk a little bit about how you were able to navigate, because I'll say, you did an incredible job of being human, like the time that we spent in the workshops and the roundtables, the sort of storytelling you did. I felt connected to my own humanity through your ability to summon your own in that digital space. Can you talk about how you approach that?
At the end of the day, you just gotta bring yourself to the table. You just gotta show up, and by in that virtual space, like what I did when you asked me, the teacher you honor or something. It's me bringing I thought long and hard when we were back there. I was drinking water to hydrate myself. You asked that question. Hey guys, giving you a heads up. I'm gonna ask this question. Da, 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 da.
You just ruined the
Spontaneous.
artifice I was trying to create. Like, just kidding.
My bad. But I was like, oh dang, that question. Okay, I gotta figure it out. But short end of the story is, you gotta be vulnerable first in order to invite others to be vulnerable with you. By being vulnerable first, you establish that trust, even within that virtual space, and it is difficult. It is difficult, but it's really just being yourself and keeping things real. I don't know how else to say it, but that's kind of how I was able to cultivate that space, or that safe space, so that we can share together.
And we talked a lot about vulnerability, and for me, the bulk of my Zoom stuff during the pandemic was therapy, and so anytime I had to do a Zoom thing that wasn't therapy, there was this weird, the feeling that it's going to be like a therapy session anytime it was like this Zoom thing. And definitely when that conversation started, this weird anxiety of like, oh, like this isn't therapy time, but it kind of was. And so I guess for me, there's something about the virtual space where, I had been very vulnerable in that space for a good year before we got to this point.
Ready to talk about feelings?
Sometimes.
So can you talk a little bit more about your overall experience in the MARNsalons and kind of some of the takeaways for you as an artist and as a person?
And then, I was very much looking for opportunity and just to get in an artistic community and get back in those dialogues. after, you know, a very strange time to be alive, and where I was feeling just so isolated. Yeah, so I just started putting myself out there, trying to find these opportunities, and then whatever I got, I just, just saying yes to everything, and making the best out of it.
Was there anything from the experience that has been kind of carried forward with you? You know, like, obviously it was an opportunity to talk about art, get some feedback. Was there anything that's, yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, even like that statement that I wrote for this is so much more honest and authentic and vulnerable than any artist statement I've ever wrote. In the past, I've always tried to turn everything into like a joke and, or make it wacky, maybe unnecessarily. And I kind of, chilled out or realized that not everything has to be chaos, and to talk very seriously about the chaos can be much more meaningful, even though it's a lot harder to do. But yeah.
Lennis, you want to share some of your experience?
Sure. Yeah, it was a virtual visit, and I was working remotely at the time, so I had 5 or 6 virtual meetings a day. So it felt really natural to me. It wasn't strange at all. But it was great to, much like Reed, I wanted to grow as an artist and make connections and get feedback, most of all about what I was doing, because I felt like I was working in a vacuum, as most of us did, during the pandemic. But my biggest takeaway was really they pushed me to explore why I was creating my art and what it meant to be and being able to verbalize that. So I did a lot of journaling, a lot of sketching, and my artwork took a real turn. What I'm doing, what I did for the exhibit here is a lot different than what I was doing, and what they pushed me to get down into the feelings. That I did a lot of collage with rusted metal and weathered wood and paper ephemera, and it was a lot about memories of home and memories of childhood and that kind of stuff. And with the accountability that I had, which I need as an artist with a creative brain, it really pushed me to keep pushing and figure out what the core of what I was creating was all about. So that was a really great aha for me, and I feel really good about it. Like I grew so much, and I'm excited about the direction I'm going now. Yeah.
So I want to ask a question that's a little bit it's not quite a departure from MARNsalons, but it's sort of an adjacent topic, and I think it motivates in part why it exists. So I'm kind of art adjacent myself. Like, I'm not an artist. I know a lot of artists. I've worked in art and with artists for a while now, and I'm always interested in how artists continue to engage in dialogue with other artists and other people to grow their practice. So before the pandemic, so kind of as life was sort of normal or whatever that means, can you talk a little bit about who's in your inner circle that you talk about your art practice with, or how it grows? Are there other artists you talk to? Are there people that you trust in that? Because I think sometimes what I'm kind of getting at is, in the MARNsalon, you kind of have to build trust really quickly with the other person, or you have to be open to hearing them. So how do you guys in your art practices, who are you talking to? What are the dialogues like? Who are the other people that you trust and confide in with your own personal development growth?
Well, so I wouldn't have to have it. We're good? Hold on, technical. Eating me up. I didn't have to worry about that problem because I had 6 children, 4 artists. So we collaborate and we work together as professionals because of the pandemic, everything was shut down. It was hard on me. I lost all the MPS jobs, all the mural jobs that I had going on. And I was an entertainer on like drawing caricatures for corporations. That industry was shut down. It was terrible. Till now it's starting to get up. Then I had to pay back rent in my studio, even though the governor shut down in the beginning of the pandemic. They still didn't have mercy on it. It was rough on artists. There was some other artists too. I know musician artists, and I think during the whole pandemic, I finally snuck to one artist's house that was a musician. He's got recording studios. I mean, there's amazing artists here that in the past, like there's another artist friend of mine, he used to sing background with Little Anthony and the Imperials, Smokey Robinson, and he's right here in Milwaukee. And so those people I collaborated. I lost one artist friend of mine from COVID. Him and his wife got it. She recovered real quick. He was in the hospital for 2 months. Then he was going to rehab, and in rehab, somebody in rehab infected him, and he died. But so now it's recovering. Things are getting better, a lot better.
You mentioned one of your primary communities of artists that you work with are your children.
Yeah, they're grown now, but when they were little, they used to help me with murals. I'm from the old school. Like if you were like a shoemaker, you had the kids learn shoemaking, and then when they got old enough, they had a skill, but they could choose what they did. You don't see that too much anymore, you know. And when I was at Tech, I learned sign painting. So they were at school. When they grew up, they had the best paper and art things, and they learned on the job. So not all of them were artists, but majority. And
so what's that relationship like now? Do you have kind of like will you still give them pointers, or will they ever give you pointers?
And now, like my daughter Rosalia, she's got a lot of murals. In fact, I'm starting to age myself. Like, seeing like the youth is taking over, and so I felt like, wow, I'm in the past, a dinosaur. But like at this phone call I just got now, I used to draw characters on cruise ships back in 2007. And then the economy went down, and then that was stopped. I used to work on Celebrity Royal Caribbean. Now for the past week, I got a call like, do you want to audition with the other artists in the nation to see if you can get on a Panama Canal cruise? So this was a guy. He said I got the gig.
Oh, congrats!
But so things are picking up. But you gotta. When I learned, when things are real down, you just gotta hang in there, because you never know. If you give up or commit suicide or do something the next day, it could have been better if you just hang in there. You know, that's how it is. So that's where I am now. So I'm happy to be here and have an audience that's live. Feel like those late talk show hosts that had no audience, and then they have one now with mask on. That's how it is here. That's the feel I have.
I think there could be nothing more appropriate in an artist panel for a gigging artist with maybe the most famous artist in Milwaukee to take a call about a job that you just got. I think that's awesome. I'm glad that happened.
So am I. I'm glad you let me take it.
Congrats. Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't slap the phone out of your hand. Who else wants to share kind of, yeah, go ahead.
I could say, that's something I really, really struggle with, and I was an artist that kind of took time off from being an artist to raise my children, and have trying to get back into it now. She went off to college, and it's been a few years. But and I had a few artist friends, but none of them were producing much, and I wanted to be productive and be around people that, you know, were creating art every day. So I joined a bunch of artist group, and I got a studio down at VAR, and you know, I joined here, and I I say yes to everything I'm offered. So I'm still looking for my community. I mean, I'm finding people, and this kind of thing is great, but it's kind of tough when you've been away from it for a while. So, yeah.
Do you feel like you found kind of confidants in that now, or are you still searching for those? Because I think, you know, sometimes it can be hard. It's almost like, you know, being back at school for the first time and being like, can we be friends? Like, is it okay?
That's exactly
like,
what
can I
it's
ask for your
like.
number? Like Like, can we go and get coffee and talk?
I'll say I'm starting to, and there's lots of possibilities out there, but I'm still looking for that bestie, that kind of thing. Yeah, that's a great question, because it is kind of tough, or it has been for me.
Yeah, and I have a good friend slash collaborator who, yeah, we just kind of sync up and kind of even have our own little secret language, basically. But we share work with each other all the time, and nothing is too harsh or nothing is too critical. Nothing's ever personal. We just like talking about ideas and concepts and pushing them and challenging each other. So I have a really good art friend and collaborator, and also my partner is also a very smart artist, and so I can talk to her about my ideas as well, and she knows what I'm trying to get at, and is much smarter than me, and helps me figure it out too. Yeah.
Yeah, pre-COVID, right? Cultivating these, it's a different form of intimacy, sharing your creative practice, because you're being so open and raw with one another. And I had the very lucky to have through grad school, and I've been out of grad school MFA program for a while now, but I still keep in touch with my classmate from grad school. And from that time, you cultivate that intimacy, and we've maintained that over the years. And the beauty of that is that we understand our work so well, and over the years, you see the growth. It's like tending the garden. You're cultivating a plant. And I cannot compare because I'm not a mother, I'm not a father, but it's like a child. I chose to dedicate my life to the work. It's like my child. So I had the honor to do that, cultivate a relationship with my classmate from grad school. We still, even though we're in different parts of the country, but we still stay connected, either through texting or sometimes telephone call. I don't do the Zoom too much because I'm so fatigued from Zoom, but we do that, and that's one way of maintaining the relationship pre-COVID, and it's even more important during COVID. The second community that I have is I'm very lucky to be employed at an art residency in New Mexico. So every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, there are new residents, artists in residence to travel across the country or within the state or different countries to take residence at the place that I work. And during that very short period of time, also you develop that conversation. And conversations, if you're real about it, become seeds. And over the course of X amount of years, it grows. And that's how you build your community. I've worked at this place for 4 years now, and now the growth is growing everywhere. And I invite everyone here in this room to continue to do that, because it's so important to be in conversation with one another, to share your work, your thinking about anything. Because sometimes you're so involved in the work that sometimes the obvious you don't see, but then when you're in conversation with with your intimate circle of friends or your community, it's like, duh, da 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 da, right? Stuff like that happens. So it's important to do that. And I use the metaphor of tending the garden, watering the plants, because that's what it is. It requires work.
So maybe I want to stay with you for a second. I'm going to ask sort of a pretty procedural question, but it's worth getting your answers to this. For MARNsalon, how did each of you hear about it? How did it come across your path? And it's already been referenced a little bit, but you know, for me, sometimes like filling out an application to be part of something is prohibitive. Like it's like I don't want to do that. Like there's too many questions. So what made you put the time and the effort into committing to this process? So, and actually, let's start because you came from the furthest away. Like, so you're not from Milwaukee. You're not. So can you share a little bit of how this came on your radar and why it was something that you said? And I know you mentioned the serendipity before. How did that serendipitous path form for you?
Well, it actually relates to the last question that you brought up, Adam. It's about cultivating your community. So Katie, who I had no idea was on the advisory board, but Katie was a artist in resident at the place where I work.
Katie Avila Lochner, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So through those, I think she was with was an artist in resident for 1 or 2 months, but through that very short period of time, we were able to establish and that connection, or planted the seed together of our work and learning about our work and what we do with our practice. And I had no idea that she was on the advisory board, but somehow during the process of brainstorming for a visiting artist, Katie told, I don't know the dialogue behind like what was going on, but she thought about my work and she sent an introductory email to me and also to Marn, and that's kind of how it happened. And here I am.
So be honest. When Milwaukee, like when she said Milwaukee, what did you think?
You guys gonna laugh at me?
No, go
We
ahead.
might.
Well, let's laugh now.
We're all looking at you now.
We'll laugh.
Tell us.
You want the honest answer.
Yeah.
I want you to be vulnerable, authentic, lean into the serendipity.
Laverne and Shirley.
Yep.
That's great.
Laverne and Shirley, that was it?
That was it.
That was it. All right.
No, that's
You wanted my honest
No, I
answer. That was the
appreciate it.
first thing that came to my mind. I'm sorry.
Most people say, why?
The major cultural reference. It's
That's
definitely
great.
I just pictured the glove on the conveyor belt. That was the image, that.
So I'm going to share with you something deeply Milwaukee. And I don't think she'd mind me sharing this with you. Katie and I had worked together on an artist residency at a library in Milwaukee, and I wrote one of her recommendations for your residency program. And so, yeah. So I was like, I hope she gets that. Then she got it. Then she met you, and then she brought you here.
It's like
and now
full circle,
here we are.
Adam.
And her artwork's right there on the wall.
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
So that's a very Milwaukee thing. Sometimes when we say small Milwaukee, we just mean segregated and we don't get out very well. But sometimes it can mean there's a beautiful tangle to how we're all connected. So absolutely. Anyone else want to share how this came across your radar and what made you think it was worth jumping into?
Well, I'm a MARN member. Everybody should be, right? And they do a really great job of letting you know about opportunities. And this sounded great because it worked right in with, building my communities. So it was definitely something I wanted to try to do. Yeah.
Yeah, and I had already been enrolled in the MARN, the Mentee Mentor program. So it's kind of already in it. And then I just, saw this opportunity and went for it as well.
Excellent.
So the show that's in the space next month, I'll also have a new piece in that as well.
all right.
Nice.
How'd you learn?
How'd I learn? I I was recommended, and I ended up talking on the phone with Nina, and she explained the salon and how it worked so beautifully that I didn't commit at first, but I didn't cut off the connection, and it developed through. It was a really good connection for artists that are what they call us, not emerging artists, but we're like established artists, and we have our own studios and work, and we're in the professional field, and we lose connection with the college or the emerging artists, and this was a good opportunity to expand my own. You can get locked into your own thing. You can do murals all your life, or you could be doing watercolors, but if you push yourself into risk-taking and other things, and if you can't do it, you can see how other people are doing it. So that inspired me, and seeing their work. And then if you're a critic, you got to learn how to temper what you say, and how to like put yourself in the other artist, how he thinks and feels a little bit. And then when through the salon, I got to meet the artists, even if it was on virtually, but they would explain how they thought, and then I could give some little tips, and they could take it or leave it. And then one of the artists, he was to come to my studio, and we were still gonna develop him after. In between, he had the final show in the fall, but because of COVID, I don't think it happened. But we got to meet artists and become friends, so that was great for me.
So I do want to give a heads up to the audience. I don't know how much time we have left, but in the last stretch, I want to offer the ability to ask questions. So if you all have a question, you'll be able to ask it in just a little bit. So in the Marn Salon process, you know, you all entered in with expectations, and but it was unknown what would unfold. Was there anything that surprised you? Anything that didn't conform your expectations? Anything that jumped out at you that stands out within your process that was a surprise?
Well, I'll tell you what surprised me just from having a membership in Marn was I got notifications about what opportunities were available in the art field here, and I really wasn't connected to that from other institutions or sources, so that was a great help. So you might have exhibits here on the gallery, but then where are you going to take it from there? So that's a good opportunity to have a membership and keep up and see what's happening in the next year to come.
I can say I kind of already stated this, but I'm shocked how much my work changed because of it. It's really different than it was before. So.
Do you feel like that's something that, like, were you on a route before and now you're on a new route, or do you think that's going to be your next body of work will be different from the one you're in now, and the next body of work is going to...
I think it'll probably keep evolving drastically, because that's just kind of me. But yeah, I think this next will be the road I'm on. But yes, it'll probably change further down the road again.
And you can say definitively, like, the new style that you're exploring right now is like because of the program.
Absolutely, yeah.
I was scared. Like, I was scared. Scared because I've never, to undertake something that's virtual in a virtual space. That's why I was scared. And what surprised me was that I was just being myself. I was able to translate, any anxiety that I had. But it all worked out in that virtual space in the end. And that was the biggest surprise for me, because as an artist, it's so hard to see stuff on a flat screen, unless it's media-based, right? I mean, you're looking at painting or sculpture or an installation. How can you do that? That's why I was scared to, like, oh God, I'm a visiting artist. Can I even give like a critique and stuff in that virtual space? So that was my anxiety. But in the end, that surprise or shock is like, wow, that turned out okay
When did you stop feeling scared?
at the end.
I'm a little surprised because you felt very composed and very like your energy didn't feel like it was sort of that sort of like you didn't feel scared to me at all.
Yeah, well, that's now I'm revealing. I'm revealing. Yeah, I was nervous.
Ah,
I was nervous.
you did a great job. So you, I don't know a ton about you, but I did hear a little bit about your artistic practice and your like. How does anxiety manifest for you? What do you do? What is your? I'm asking you to be really vulnerable right now.
Well, I'm a rock climber, and I brought out rock climbing quite a lot during the artist talk but I'm a rock climber because yeah, entering it, there's that anxiety and that fear. It's good to have that as an artist because you are pushing yourself to spaces where you're not comfortable, and that's kind of where you want to be as an artist. So in rock climbing, you gotta be present. You have to be present every moment, as I am right now, of what is it that's going through your mind and what is going out of your mouth. So during the virtual space, I tap into that part of my brain as a rock climber to be present in front of the screen. I'm not able to make eye contact through the video monitors, but here I can make eye contact with everyone here in this room. So, answer to your question is I block out that anxiety, because when you climb a rock face, you have no room for mistakes. That fear is there. The height is there, but I don't look down. It's the same thing in that virtual space. That flat monitor screen is my height, but I don't look down.
Stakes are a little lower. Did you literally go and like rock climb? Like, did you go and rock climb to use some of the anxiety energy that you had?
No, but I tap into that.
Yeah.
You know, I'm a kinesthetic learner, so I learn through movements, and I tap into the memory of basically I translated whatever that fear or anxiety in that virtual space to my headspace as a rock climber.
Sure. Excellent. Reed, do you want to share anything that was surprising to you?
For me, it was getting invited to be part of this panel. That I guess I didn't expect it to happen. I didn't expect to be invited, and yeah.
You and Lennis, this is your first panel, right? First panel you've ever done? How's it going? Feel good?
Okay, I think. How's it going?
All right.
Yeah.
Good.
I'm really glad that you guys joined the panel. And
Thank you.
a question here, and I know that this is sort of an awkward question to ask, but I was encouraged to ask it by the folks who put the program together. I'm going to ask you to offer critique of them and of the program. Was there anything within the MARNsalon program that room for improvement? Could be in the program, and let's imagine there wasn't a pandemic, and I know that's really hard to do, but aside from everything being digital, that wasn't ideal. But is there anything that you'd want to suggest as places for improvement? Or if you feel too Midwestern about it and you don't want to do that, what would you have changed about your approach going into MARNsalon?
I really can't think. I mean, everything was great. Everything was organized great, and it was a great experience. If you really pushed me to say something that would have been nice, is actually to be exposed to more professional artists. But I mean, the ones we had were great too. But if there's a suggestion, that would be it, maybe.
Yeah, I guess it does feel that there's 3 sections, but they never all get together. Everything's so separated. But at the end, we're all put together. But I guess that would be the only thing is
More connectivity between.
the three separate, in which pandemic certainly makes everything strange. But
Sure.
yeah.
Excellent.
I was just wondering, in the audience, I'm looking at how many were artists themselves, if they could raise their hand or something.
Who's an artist in the audience?
Okay, very good.
Oh, majority.
Okay, that's good.
Do you have a suggestion for what could have gone better or
No.
improvement?
Not really, because I think it was being on Zoom or online, it was done the best it could be done. And so I have no, it's under circumstances. So considering it was very good to me.
That's a tough question. I would have to say, I wish there were more diversity in terms of artists I visit, because my strength as an artist of color, I would like to visit and offer, my experience as a person of color growing up here, and meeting with a more diverse artist. No offense to any of you guys, but you asked that question, so I'm going to be frank. There's got to be more outreach, because when I got the list of artists, it was great for me to research and study the work. But what I can, we can talk more intimately about race and struggles and hope and dreams. I can offer my lens from an immigrant perspective. But certain artists that I visit, I can critique on a formal level. That I can do. But in terms of room for improvement, I'd like to see more outreach to a diverse community, to bring a more diverse group of artists. And it's really doing the homework to enter those communities, to invite, because sometimes people don't know that this exists. So in terms of room for improvement, I feel that that outreach, and for future MARNsalons, to have a more diverse group of artists.
I appreciate you. Yeah. No, that's definitely across a lot of the art community in Milwaukee. There are artists that are out there, right? So I think that's something, especially when it's like who's applying. I guess you pointed out kind of the
and then if there are like barriers and stuff, like $40 for membership, maybe $40 is a lot of money for people. So maybe get some funding and stuff and just waive that, and then bring more people in. Yeah.
I think Milwaukee is the most segregated city in the country. So there are much bigger barriers that you're getting at as well, that go through the whole city.
And also room for improvement. Oh, did I you open up a worm for room?
No, but here, let me.
Segregated?
No, but
because the application process could also be evaluated, right? Are there certain application process where words are not really the strength of certain people? Could it be a video application? Stuff like that. So kind of like thinking in different ways of what are ways of and means of communication of to reach certain demographics. So I would just say more outreach.
Absolutely. Inclusivity can be a complex proposition, and a lot of us want it, but you have to work to get there for sure. Does anyone in the audience have
Actually, you had something to say.
Oh, I was going to, what you're saying about the diversity in Milwaukee. We have galleries. You have to go back in the history of this this city. It's divided. Way in the beginning, the founders of the city, they were divided. One person owned this part of it. That's why the streets don't connect. But now we have like certain parts where African Americans live on this side of town, on the other side. This is downtown, which is kind of, then you have like Latin galleries, Latino galleries, and work with Hmong, but they don't have a gallery yet. And that's what I was saying, if we could cross-culture it. But what's good here is this gallery right here is more like where people come for the festivals on the lake. This is in a good location. So I think this will help with that problem. But that is a problem that's being worked on. And it's not just here, because I used to go to different parts of the country for the international character artists. And I was like the only person of color like 10 years ago, whatever. Then since they were international, then they had one year we had a bunch of members from Japan that came to the U.S. and they won all the awards. Then it broke down, and now when I go, I haven't gone, but there was more people that look like brown skin. So it takes a little time. In the beginning, you're right, it was, and I fell out of place because everybody, they knew their buddy system, and but you can't drop out yourself. You have to be in there and that's what I did. I've done murals way up in other parts of northern Wisconsin where people looked at me strange, and people from this part of the state would say, you don't want to go up there because so artists are trailblazers, and so that's what's going to happen. Things are happening, but we keep pushing. We don't want to drop out, like we said. We want to keep pushing and making it forward, but things could speed up faster, and we're working on it. That's what I have to think.
For sure. Yeah. Does anyone have a question you guys want to ask the panel? We only have a few minutes left. Yes. What was the main criteria for being accepted in the program? Actually, I don't know the answer to that. So one of the program directors want to? Any other questions
Yeah.
to wrap up?
Yeah, is there an age limit? There isn't. Okay, well, I'll throw it out. So maybe some are wondering the same question. All right.
I think given some of what people wanted out of the Marn Salon, what we're doing now can help fulfill some of that, which is everyone's invited now to go to the public market. Folks are just going to walk down there and get some food. If you've already eaten, feel free to come and just hang out. I know some of you guys are going to be going down to the public market, and everyone else is invited. That said, I'll just say, you know, I was actually invited to be part of Marn Salon as sort of just the tech guy, and I really loved, because I'm often like facilitating things. I love just sort of being hands off and watching things unfold in front of me. And I will say, I just love each and every conversation, and I got to see the workshops and the roundtables, and they were just beautiful conversations. And I think especially, I just want to applaud Marn for fusing the kinds of artistic, the artists of the caliber that you brought into Milwaukee, because I think sometimes we all get to know each other, and there's a lot of artists of great caliber in Milwaukee too, but sometimes I think we up our game when we meet someone amazing from somewhere else. So thank you guys for putting on Marn Salon. Yeah, thank you. And so Nina and Michelle, thank you for putting on the program, and then to our panelists, you guys were wonderful, especially for our first timers, for our out of town guests, and for our legend. Round of applause for the panelists.
Two thumbs up. All right.